So there are definitely some mistakes I made as a new motorcyclist, as somebody that knew nothing about motorcycles and they just jumped right into it. So we're gonna talk about that today. I'm gonna finish my coffee, we're gonna get on the bike, take a little bit of a road trip, and we'll talk about those mistakes I made. So where I'm riding to does require a cooler, and I do have it here in this Kemimoto bag. You can see I finally actually have it set up. So it's got these clips here that actually hold this flap down, and then the Velcro's right here. So you can see I got a soft cooler in here with a couple ice packs. So we're gonna jump on the bike to where we're gonna need this later. So I'm actually taking a trip to a small town about 45 minutes to an hour from here to get some bratwurst, because we got the 4th of July holiday coming up and that is one of the things on our menu. And yeah, I could just go right down the street to the store, but what's the fun in that? It's a beautiful Sunday. It is actually really cool for this time of the year. And the cool thing about motorcycling is you tend to go on the long trips. You tend to take the long route. And so I've been exploring all these smaller cities around us, and this place apparently has a really good, I don't know if it's a full meat market, but apparently they have like some of the best brats. So we're gonna go check it out. I got a buddy that's gonna come with me. He's gonna follow me in his old school BMW just to put some miles on that. So we're gonna go meet him up at the gas station and then head out to, I believe it's Amsterdam, Missouri. It's a little chilly. I was like, ooh, glad I need the jacket. So what is it?
88 BMW 325.
We're gonna take his car and this bike out to get some bratwurst at Amsterdam, Missouri. Getting a few of them, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Mac and cheese brats. Those gotta be good. I would guess so. Everything I've had here has been good.
This is insane. I think these brats will last us a while. I just got to see if they're going to fit in my cooler now. Yeah.
That's what it always does.
All right, got about 5 packs stuffed in there. I think that'll fit. The Kemimoto bag definitely came in handy with this trip.
So the biggest mistake I made as a motorcycle rider, in my opinion now looking back, is buying a brand new bike. And not only that, buying it without even knowing how to ride. Now the reason I did that is because when I get into something, I get it into 110%, and I was super excited. I wanted a motorcycle after watching a bunch of YouTube videos on the best beginner bike, because I knew I wanted a Harley. I narrowed it down to the Iron 883. After watching Blockhead's videos and everything and some others, I knew that's kind of the bike I wanted. I did go try and sit on several other bikes, but being someone that's never been on a bike before, all the other ones were bigger and just felt intimidating, and the Iron 883 felt real comfortable with as small as it was, and it was obviously the less intimidating for somebody in my situation. However, I have no regrets of buying that particular bike, the Iron 883. However, if I were to do it all over again, I probably would have bought a used one. At the time, that was the last year for the Sportsters. The dealership I went to, actually a couple of them, had the new ones, but then they also had some used ones. But the price difference between the used and new weren't that huge. Upgrades that were already on the used ones weren't ones that I really liked anyway, so I knew I was going to have to change some things. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just buy a new one. And I know I've argued this before, that the dealership told me, oh, you'll outgrow this bike in 6 months to a year. I'm like, that's fine. Let me do that on my own. Let me just get comfortable with that. But I wish I would have really thought about it and actually bought them used, because then obviously when I outgrew it, I had purchased a brand new one, and luckily I got basically what I owed on it as a trade-in for this one. But yeah, I definitely wish I would have waited until at least after the MSF course. But the problem was, when I decided I wanted to get a motorcycle, it was coming in the fall, and that's really when the MSF course was filling up, because the weather was getting nicer, and a lot of people also wanted to get their course in before winter. And so I had to wait probably about a month or so before I was able to get my MSF course, and I was too excited. I didn't want to wait, so I went ahead and bought a motorcycle without knowing how to ride or ever riding one. And again, I'm glad I went with that one, but I wish I would have maybe kept looking and found one somewhere else that was used, because now that I have this one, I still do miss the Sportster. You know, you always miss your first bike. You kind of never want to sell it, but I wasn't able to afford both at the time. But had I bought that one used, maybe I would have been able to pay that one off, keep that one just to have, and then still get this one or whatever. But I definitely realized when I thought watching YouTube videos on how to ride a motorcycle, I could teach myself. So while I was waiting on taking the course, I decided to take the bike out and teach myself how to ride it. And I definitely got it wrong. Watching the videos, I thought the friction zone was the point to where when you have the clutch pulled all the way in to where it starts to engage, I thought that little take up before then was the friction zone. And I was, for the life of me, I could not figure out why I couldn't get the shifting right. And then, you know, shifting in the first, I was always stalling the bike. Well, turns out after the MSF course, I had the friction zone position wrong. So that was a mistake, but that happens. it is kind of hard to learn to do something like this, learn how to ride a motorcycle just off YouTube videos. That's the one thing about the MSF course, is there's somebody there to teach you how to actually do it, what you're doing it wrong. So that was my biggest mistake, I think, is buying a brand new motorcycle as my first bike. Luckily, I didn't drop it, didn't have any issues with actually riding or dropping the bike. I did have some other issues with the bike itself, but that was a whole warranty issue and didn't have to do with the way I was riding. It was just an issue with the engine in the bike, but that ended up getting fixed. And you know, if I would have waited to buy a motorcycle until after the MSF course, maybe I would have ended up with something different than the Sportster. You know, at that point I would have been comfortable with riding the bike and everything, so then I would have been able to go to these dealerships and actually try out different bikes, and with a little experience under my belt, probably would have felt more comfortable on something bigger. I don't know, but that's just something I go back and think about. It's like, man, I know I was super excited to get a bike and I wanted one, so I bought one when I could, but if I had to do it all over again, would I do it the same way? I don't know. I did, like I said, really think the Sportster is a good beginner bike just because it's a lot smaller, not intimidating. There's not a whole lot of torque, so unlike this bike where you can really get up on it, there's a lot more power with this bike. Probably not the best for a new rider. The power limitations on the 883 was definitely good, but again, I quickly outgrew that as I rode, because I was riding a lot at first. But had I bought it used, even if I went with the Sportster, maybe I would have been able to keep that one too. So let me know your guys' experience. Were you like me and bought a brand new motorcycle for your first bike, or did you buy something used? And also, if you're, you know, somebody's watching this and they're thinking about buying a new bike, what do you recommend for them, especially in the Harley lineup now that Sportsters aren't available? They're wanting to buy new. The other mistake I made looking back on it now is not buying the proper gear for protection. And you know, when you go buy a new motorcycle or used from a Harley dealership, but you know, they have all the gear and stuff upstairs, and you know, after I bought my motorcycle, I'm like, well, I know I need a helmet and gloves and stuff, and I didn't know where else to go, what was good at the time. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'm gonna buy a helmet from the Harley dealership because I'm getting a discount, and you know, who wouldn't want a helmet that says Harley Davidson on it and stuff like that, and gloves from up there. So I ended up buying, the same time I bought my Iron 883, I ended up buying a helmet and just some like leather gloves. I ended up not buying a jacket from there because they were super expensive. But the helmet I ended up buying, which I again didn't know any better at the time, was actually kind of too big. So I don't know if maybe I didn't get fitted right, or I just kind of broken the cheek pads. But even then, after going to like an actual store that's, you know, dedicated to motorcycle gear, I definitely needed a smaller helmet at the time. And the helmet from Harley was just like I think it's an actual HJC helmet. It's just a Harley branded one. And it was a good helmet, but it was definitely too big for me. So luckily nothing happened to where, you know, I would have needed that helmet to save my life. Who knows what would happen if the helmet was too big. But just doing more research on kind of the safety stuff prior to getting a motorcycle would have definitely helped. You know, not realizing, okay, probably not the best thing to get gear from the actual Harley dealership. Maybe go to somewhere else like that. We have a Cycle Gear and then another place that sells some stuff too, which I've started buying from. And then of course there's Revzilla and everything like that, which I didn't know about at the time. So I definitely think I should have not gotten super excited about buying the Harley and then buying everything Harley branded. I probably should have looked into, you know, what good helmets there were, and actually going to an actual gear store and trying them on, talking to somebody who's really experienced in that stuff, and getting their opinions and fitted correctly for the right helmet. Because then once I got this helmet, you know, they're not cheap. A good helmet, I think this one was still 500 bucks. It's a great helmet, but I wish I would have gone with this in the first place and not had to buy two different helmets, because it's kind of a waste of money. Same thing with the gloves. The gloves aren't a big deal, but the gloves, you know, at Harley dealership aren't the most protective. And of course I bought leather ones, and obviously those aren't good for the cooler weather. So that wasn't a huge deal, but I definitely should have purchased, nice blinker guy, I definitely should have purchased a riding jacket too, and some pads like the one I have now that has elbow pads and a back pad and all that stuff, because when I took the Sportster out to kind of teach myself how to ride, I would just have a regular jacket that I had laying around the house. I think I had a leather one that I used, but still, something would have happened that would not have protected me very well. But then later on I discovered, okay, I probably need to invest in a jacket. Yeah, gear's not the coolest thing. I know you definitely, you know, when you get a bike, you want to do all these modifications, you want to make it faster, you want to make it look cooler, more comfortable. But if I were to do it all over again, I probably would have focused more on the gear first, especially as somebody that had never been on a motorcycle before. Spend the money on that stuff, and then once you get comfortable on the bike and everything and more practice behind the handlebars, then start spending the money on the cool modifications that you want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, it still worked out okay for me, but that's, again, knock on wood, because nothing happened. But if I were to definitely recommend, if you're getting into motorcycles as a beginner, you know, definitely look at investing in good protection gear first, because if something happens to you down and you're not wearing the gear, your days of riding may be over. It just depends, but having the proper gear definitely helps. And like on days like today where it's like the highs like in the 70s, you know, I don't mind wearing this jacket. Of course, there's days where, you know, it's super hot or humid. I'll still wear short sleeve t-shirts. I know that's not the thing, but if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of riding, or especially like highway riding, then yeah, I'll wear this jacket. You know, even if it's hot and humid, as long as you're going, it's not that big of a deal. It's when you're in the stop and go traffic that's not very fun, when it's super hot out. But if you're somebody that, you know, doesn't care about the protective gear, then that's your thing. I definitely think you should have some. You know, even if I'm wearing a t-shirt, I'll still wear a leather vest. I know that's not going to provide a whole lot of protection, but still a little bit. I always wear jeans and boots. I definitely need to get some dedicated motorcycle jeans with better padding. I just need to figure out what size, because the local motorcycle shops really don't have a whole lot of options for that. Revzilla obviously has a ton, but I don't know what size I wear. But that's definitely something I need to look into. It's funny because a lot of the riders that I see not wearing any sort of protection are Harley riders for whatever reason, especially the old guys on the cruisers. I mean, I see guys wearing shorts and sneakers, and it's like, oh my god, I can't imagine. Like, I've tried wearing shorts when I just took this down the road, but I still burnt myself on the exhaust. I don't know how those guys do it. Man, if anything happens, your day is gonna suck. And of course, here in Kansas, we don't have helmet laws, and I always see Harley riders especially not wearing a helmet at all. Sometimes they'll wear the ones that just protect your head and there's no face, like the half helmet or whatever. But again, you know, that's your thing, but I definitely, if you're a beginner rider, for sure, you definitely need a full face helmet. I want to say, I don't see how people ride without helmets anyway, because I'm constantly getting, like right there, I just got smashed in the head with a bug. Not wearing a helmet, that would have sucked. And I wear glasses, so you know, that helps block a little bit of the wind from my eyes. But I don't know, I just think, at least if you're not going to wear, you know, a jacket and stuff like that, at least wear a full face helmet just to protect yourself. Because riding on the highway especially, I mean, there's gravel, there's rocks and stuff that I can feel it hit me in the helmet. That cannot feel good. Hey, if that's your thing, if you don't like to wear a helmet, more power to you. You do you. Me personally, I just think, especially for a newer motorcycle rider, I would definitely recommend riding it. And then if you end up getting comfortable and don't want to ride it, wear a helmet. More power to you. And then when it comes to jackets, obviously a lot of motorcycle riding jackets are not cheap, but you get what you pay for. And you definitely want to find something that has padding. Like in this one, I have padding here, kind of on my elbow and I guess forearm, and then the shoulders, and then I got a back pad, because that's definitely going to help protect you. And like with this one, it has an insert, like a windbreaker insert, so that way when it's colder out, I put that in, and then when it's hotter out in the summertime, I just take that off. And then this mesh here, the wind kind of goes right through it, so you're able to still get some wind inside the jacket. There's all sorts of different ones out there. Cost is a huge one. The leather jackets are probably the best for you as far as protection goes, but obviously going to cost a lot more. So whatever fits in your budget, but I would definitely focus on at least getting a good helmet, a good jacket, and gloves as a new rider. So those are the two biggest, I would say, mistakes, or maybe something I would do differently as a new motorcycle rider. Now having probably 2.5 years under my belt, looking back at it all now, it's like, okay, maybe I would have done things a little bit differently. But again, as far as the bike, first bike, have no regrets about the Iron 883. But now looking back, I wish I would have bought a used one at least, and then focused on spending money on good gear initially, just because you never know. And riding motorcycles are just amazing, especially on days like this. It's the last day in June, and the high is like 75 today, which is very rare. So having a motorcycle, I've learned that you always take the long way somewhere, and it's amazing. And then you find spots like that spot that we went to in Amsterdam, Missouri. If I didn't have a motorcycle, no, I'm not going to drive an hour away to get bratwurst. I'm going to go to the store and buy whatever I can there. But having a motorcycle definitely, you know, is different. And then you're going to it'll take you places that you normally wouldn't go probably in an actual vehicle, which is awesome. And then there have been a ton of people out here riding. The motorcycle community is awesome. Everybody at the bike nights and everything, super nice and welcoming, especially if you're a new rider. It doesn't matter what you ride, as long as you're on two wheels, it seems like, you know, you're part of the group. And let's hope this cop isn't waiting for me up here. I'm pretty sure I wasn't speeding. Maybe I was going like a little bit over. I don't know, I'm a little nervous right now. Well, he's staying there, so I might be in the clear. Yeah, I think because it's a nice Sunday, there have been cops everywhere. Honestly, the biggest thing I regret is not getting into motorcycles sooner. I didn't realize how just fun they would be and just how much I would enjoy it. But I'm glad I got into it, because it's been fun. It's fun just taking the bike out, even with no destination in mind. Most of the time I go riding, I don't have a destination. I just go out to ride, and it's kind of cool. I don't even use the GPS. I just go wherever and kind of explore some new areas I've never been to. So it's really fun just to do that. It's not very, I mean, I used to do that in the car and everything every now and then if it's nice, you know, take a ride, but it's not the same. It's definitely a different experience when you're on two wheels. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video, taking a little trip with me to Amsterdam, Missouri. If you guys kind of like this content, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. It's totally free for you. Until I come out with my new video, check out these other videos right here.